Good morning and welcome to day 2 of February Blue Marble Week, where we discuss near-term and near-Earth space infrastructure development. My name is Lila Gislason. I am co-founder and chief of marketing with the Foundation for the Future. Our theme this month is strategic space. We'll be discussing and have been discussing, our first day was yesterday, positioning, economics, and the industrial base, infrastructure, of course, and how that relates to workforce, security, and Department of Defense, which will be a big part of the discussion today, as we have a phenomenal lineup of speakers, including Lieutenant General B. Chance Saltzman of the United States Air Force. I know we're all very excited about that. So why the name Blue Marble Week? Well, the blue marble photo, our namesake, as you've all seen, and if you can zoom into Michael's screen, you can see it in his background there. Our first ever event, which happened this past December, happened on the anniversary of the date that this photograph was taken. It was December 7th, 1972 by the Apollo 17 crew from a distance of about 18,000 miles from the planet's surface. They captured this image as they were traveling towards the moon, looking back. And if you can believe it, this was actually the last moon mission, and it was nearly 50 years ago. So this image has become a symbol of unity, of humanity, of Earth's fragility, and of course, our monthly series of events. So thank you for joining us today. We're on Zoom and also streaming via YouTube Live and Facebook Live as well. So check us out there. We at the Foundation for the Future, along with some of our phenomenal partners, created this event to accelerate the United States' space infrastructure development. We really see this as the first step to creating a safe and sustainable gateway to outer space. Our mission here is really to expand this circle and to inspire people outside of this circle, because I think many of us know the urgency of this. But do our neighbors know? Do our children know? Do our government officials know that space is here and it's now? And if we want to get there in the year 2075, if we don't take actions now, what does that look like? And who will step up to take these actions? So we really have 3 goals. As I mentioned, to accelerate near-term space infrastructure development through education, connection, and urgency. Also to be a credible and essential resource for the space industry and for us, for our community, for individuals, organizations, companies. We really want this to be a place for doers and shakers like us to connect and have this shared vision and have fun. And that being said, please, at all times, feel free to make comments and share in the links. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get to it as soon as we can. Really want this to be a discussion, so please feel free to jump in and raise your hand if you have questions. We also have one more objective. As we convene and share this information, we're compiling it. So we are developing case studies upon case studies for why space infrastructure is relevant and important for security, for jobs. And this information we plan to use to help support our Space Act initiative in the 117th Congress. So Tim Chrisman, our founder, will be discussing that in just a minute. So that will be exciting to learn more about. And this really takes all of us. We can't do it alone, and your support really makes a difference and helps us and also the greater story. So we're always seeking high caliber speakers to enrich this content. If you know anyone that you feel could contribute to this discussion, please let us know. Volunteers, this takes a lot of time and energy to host these events, and a big thanks to all of you who do. And of course, to keep this event free for everybody, we're always seeking sponsors and donors. And if nothing else, please share, tell your friends, post on social media. All of that is greatly appreciated. So if you have any insights into that, you can reach out to us via bluemarbleweek.space. And also, while you're there, you can check out the full lineup for today. All the speakers and also links to the live streams are there. So again, thank you all for attending. Our co-host today is the Space Force Association, so I want to give them a big thanks and appreciate all the support. Enjoy the event.
Thanks, Lila. Tim, you got any comments? Wait. Let me flop that around a little bit, because you're going to give us an update. Bill, I want to say thanks very much to the Space Force Association. The the effort that y'all have put into this particular event about strategic space has been really helpful. As we discussed yesterday, strategic space has a lot of different definitions. It's workforce development, it's industrial base, it's economics and economy, and of course it's defense. And so the effort that y'all and you and your team put out, I'm very grateful. So thank you very much for that.
You bet, Michael. SFA really does appreciate the opportunity to partner with the Foundation for the Future and with Blue Marble Week, and to help get the word out about what's going on in the space, not just industry, but in defense and academia, and get the information out so people can have the discussions that need to be had. And Lila, you already said it this morning, that we just need to continue to have these discussions. Interviews I've had with the Space Force leadership, they're all saying the same thing. We just need to keep having these discussions. So the more events that we have like this, the more opportunity we have to speak about what is going on in the space domain, the better it is for everybody, so that we don't have to rely on Netflix series, and we can actually get information to the American people and to our international partners about what's going on in the space domain. So a big thank you from the Space Force Association to Foundation for the Future founder Tim Chrisman. Thank you so much. And Lila and Michael, thanks for reaching out and letting us help co-host this phenomenal event. Thank you. And we're looking forward to a great day. I'm looking forward to Rob Adams talking this morning. And we've got Eric Sumby from our board of directors, just a young professional out of Texas who got his master's at Glasgow University in space studies. And then Mike Martindale, our Space Education Committee Director, PhD, is going to talk about the importance of wargaming. And then we've got, I know Floyd Kerr is talking from Red Space, because we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but we don't really know what would happen if a potential adversary in the space domain were to take out some of our capabilities. And he's going to talk a little bit about what that potential impact is. I do want to remind everybody that whoever's speaking today is speaking on behalf of themselves. It's their own personal opinion. It's not the views or sanctioned by the Space Force. So I just want to clarify that today as we begin our speaking engagement for the day. But then another one, kind of a follow-up from the last month, is the point-to-point discussion. So we're going to have a lieutenant colonel from the Air Force talking about how Transcom is looking at how to get cargo from point A to point B as quickly as possible. This is something that Elon Musk has been talking about for a while. And Matt Anderson, our director of outreach, has been gracious enough to put together a panel discussion to have that talk, and what Transcom, Transportation Command, is doing to try to foster and facilitate that continued discussion. So again, on behalf of the entire SFA, thank you so much for putting this event on, and looking forward to today. And if people are really wondering about the schedule, at the very end of the day, keynote speaker is Lieutenant General Chance Saltzman, the Chief Operating Officer for the Space Force, a good friend and phenomenal professional. And he's going to be speaking about what's going on in the Space Force today. So thanks again, and looking forward to a great day.
I'm super excited. I want to just kind of like let two things percolate for a second. First of all, how cool is it that we have a chief operations officer of Space Force? Just like pause on that for a second and say, wow, that's pretty neat, I think. And then, you know, I'm going to actually play favorites. I liked all of our speakers yesterday. There were some amazing stuff, really good, you know, interesting stuff I'm looking forward to today. But as a former Marine, the idea of using rocketry to put folks where they need to be, when they need to be, yeah, that is literally the stuff of dreams. I have a whole bookshelf of science fiction over here, and the idea of a drop Marine is pretty damned exciting to me. So looking forward to Lieutenant Colonel Ladd's conversation, as well as Lieutenant General Saltzman's conversation. So thanks a lot. Tim, it's over to you to talk about the Space Act.
All righty. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I want to echo Michael's comment about the presentation from Ladd on point-to-point suborbital. I am almost more excited for that talk than our keynote for a very personal reason. I used to be a member of Task Force 160, an element in the U.S. military's essentially rapid response force. It was our mission to be anywhere in the world, wheels up within hours, with helicopters, crew. We were Team America, so to speak. And the idea that Team America now gets to look into a future where they are strapped onto a rocket, or their equipment is really cool, and a really exciting thing to look forward to. And making that reality possible is one of the missions here at the Foundation for the Future. So this presentation is very similar to most of the pitches we give regarding our proposal to the 117th Congress for the Space Corporation, which is a public-private infrastructure development corporation. And we see the need for this because where someone sits is where their priorities lie. And so NASA is looking out, looking beyond, looking for the new. As we'll hear today a lot, Space Force is not focused out and beyond. They're focused on defending us, on preventing conflict, on securing the space lanes. And the private sector is doing its best to innovate faster than any of us can keep up. But without some sort of coordinating element or glue that holds all of this together, there are seams that our adversaries can exploit. There are tasks left undone or done poorly, because as I've seen in the military, you give an enlisted soldier a job, and if they don't have the tools, they'll figure it out, but it's not going to be pretty. And you're going to have to repaint the rocks after they did it with a toothbrush because you didn't give them a paintbrush. And so our proposal is creating something to fill that gap, to be the specialized tool that enables NASA's mission, Space Force's mission, and smooths the innovation that the private sector is already doing. These graphs are probably no surprise to any of you who have read anything about early adoption or marketing cycles. And I sort of put this at the beginning to orient all of us to where are we? First thing those of us with military experience are ever told is, orient your map and then figure out where you're going. And so here is our orientation. We are pretty close to the bad part of this map in terms of the space economy. There's a lot of excitement around new, exciting developments. But there's a gap between what we're doing now and where customers are, between what we plan and what we need. And I have the logos of NASA and Space Force here, not as anything other than to remind us that they have very specific roles. And I want to go into what they're mandated to do. And in some cases, that may be a surprise. I, being new to the space sort of world in the past 3 or 4 years, had always associated NASA with everything space. If it's in space, oh, NASA's got that. They must have this like cell of smart nerds that are like coordinating everything. And as I've first with the CIA and their space department and now with the foundation have become more and more integrated in the space community, I've realized that NASA's been just the public face of a labyrinth of agencies and organizations working in space. And NASA's role truly is pushing that frontier. We saw over the last year the sort of excitement that built around Space Force and the hope and aspiration from many within the community that Space Force was going to accelerate the government's sort of innovation cycle in space and help be another vehicle for space investment. And I think ultimately that is what will play out. And absent any other action, they will fill any role that is needed. I don't know that that is what we want as a country. And I don't think that's what even many in Space Force would say they need. Dwight Eisenhower famously took a 62-day trip across the US. That was how long it took him to make it across the US and what spurred the development of the interstate highway system. He made the trip as essentially a publicity stunt to show that it was virtually impossible for the military to move equipment and personnel around just America, much less abroad, and how there was a stark need for a backbone of infrastructure to support our national security and economic growth. And I think in the same way, Space Force, as they are building out their capability, would benefit from the sort of backbone infrastructure to, from, and through space, because that's one less thing they have to build, maintain, or equip. And that's where our proposal fits. Our proposal for the Space Corporation, modeled after ComSat from 1960, with a mandate to make space real, to build the boring backbone infrastructure, to enable operations by our guardians, to propel NASA further and faster, and smooth the rough edges and instability in the space financial markets by helping buy down the risk for patient capital that funds the majority of infrastructure development in every other domain humans live and work in. And so ultimately, the value proposition of this new organization is making space fade into the background. We talked yesterday about labels for space. whether it's new space, old space, safe space, risk space. Ultimately, Space Corporation's goal is to make space what happens after what you do. You are a manufacturing company, comma, in space, to give you a zip code on the moon, so to speak. And they'll do that through, as we've said, the space infrastructure, expanding a workforce, and smoothing capital. So Space Corporation, as proposed right now, and as a result of a lot of feedback from many on Capitol Hill, would take the form of a publicly traded, federally chartered corporation. So Congress, through an act of law, would incorporate this company. The company would list on a stock exchange, be authorized to issue bonds and other financing vehicles, operating similar to In-Q-Tel in how it would buy down risk, bundle investments, and take an expansive view of what success looks like. Success for Space Corporation would not be exits where they fund the next Starlink or Facebook. Instead, success is customers like Space Force utilizing the technology or the infrastructure developed. And that's a very different model from traditional VC, and why there has been such support within the financial community for a model like this. Instead of crowding out other investment tools, this is additive, and in many cases provides the sort of exponential boost that In-Q-Tel does here on the ground. There's a handful of slides here on the different types of investments that we have proposed for Space Corporation. Many of these are based on conversations with people like you, leaders, intellectuals, and professionals in the space community, as well as DoD, NASA, and other administration officials discussing the sorts of things that would be nice to have. And I say nice to have because we will make it eventually, we as Americans. But if we're already landing on the moon, what would benefit the NASA Artemis program if it was ready ahead of time or as a stay behind? Or what sorts of things would help insert name of company here? And that's where these projects and proposals sort of were crowdsourced, packaged together. We did some initial economic analysis and now have been presenting this to Congress. And as you'll see, whether it's the access investments here, where we are proposing to, from, and through, with an emphasis really on the from, because many other organizations and entities are looking at getting to or through space. And we want to raise awareness for bringing benefits back home. With sustainment investments, it's about making a space to live and work. My daughter wants to go to space, but she doesn't want to become an astronaut. And she told the Surgeon General of the US this on a flight back home a couple months ago. And he said, well, why don't you want to be an astronaut? You're wearing a NASA hoodie. I thought you would want to be an astronaut. She said, I don't want to get shots. And I have never seen someone laugh so hard on an airplane. And it was absolutely hilarious to see the same person who gives COVID-19 briefings in the press room be told by an 8-year-old, nah, I don't want to do something that probably most kids are supposed to say they do want to do because I don't like a needle. So thanks, but no thanks. And so these investments around sustainment are about making sure she can get to space and live there without needing a lot of shots. And then for those of us who are staying on the ground, how can the space economy work for us? How can there be sustainable pathways to employment? How can the jobs that are needed and the tools we create in space be brought back down to benefit the rest of us? And that's what the support investments are about. I'm going to end here for questions. And there's a very similar pitch from yesterday about how you can be involved. I presented this yesterday talking about we're looking for a broad coalition, looking for partners and donors. And what happened in the background between yesterday and today is, after discussions with several of you, we reached out to legislative offices in your districts and were able to point to whether it was introductions provided, letters signed, or just name recognition, and say, we were just talking to this individual, here's our proposal, are you interested? And in a matter of 24 hours, those open doors and have got at least 3 more representatives in the House and a senator talking about our proposal, considering it, asking for additional information. And so that's the sort of impact that you can have with something as simple as signing a template letter to your congressperson. So yeah, it is sometimes that easy.
Terrific, Tim. Thank you so much. It's really exciting to know that these Blue Marble Week events are having that almost immediate feedback. So that's fantastic. We don't actually have time for questions, so I apologize, Nara, but we're thankful that you want to help. So thank you. We'll talk to you after this.